Hello everyone, let's begin with what we have to do this week. As I told you last week, we will begin by reviewing the previous units. So this week we are going to review units 1 and unit 2. And what you're going to do is creating a grammar game, an Instagram post, and some idioms. We will have an activity about idioms. I'm going to explain everything now. Perhaps the most difficult activity that we have for this week is a grammar game. You have to create a grammar game. In order to avoid the grammar activities that we usually do, this week you're going to create a game to practice one of the grammar points that we have in Unit 1 and or Unit 2. That is, in Unit 1 we have the present simple, the present continuous, and the adverbs and expressions of frequency. And in Unit 2 you have the used to, past simple, past continuous, and past perfect. You have to choose some of these points and create a game to practice it. You can create the game on a piece of paper, or you can come into this web page that I'm going to leave you here, which is learningapps.org. In this web, you have to register, but you can create apps to learn, okay? So you can do it on a piece of paper, or you can come to this web page and create your own app. Then what you have to do is you're going to go into your Instagram account and you're going to record a story explaining us how to play that game. So, as this is the longest activity that we have for this week, you have until Sunday to do it. That is, you have until May the 3rd. Okay? Next activity will be an Instagram post. And as this post is really easy because we're going to talk about monuments, as you can see here, you will have to do two Instagram posts about monuments in the countries you've chosen. Of course, this week I will upload a picture for you to take as a reference, okay? So I will upload the picture this morning and you will have to write the post for this Saturday, which is the 2nd of May. Of course, these dates are always a reference. If you want to deliver your work sooner, you may do it, okay? And last but not least, we're going to practice a little bit of vocabulary, but we're not going to learn the words from the book that you already know and that you have already studied. What we're going to do is that we're going to practice idioms. Maybe you have heard of idioms before. These are sentences which meaning cannot be deduced from the words which form the sentence. It has a non-literal meaning. For example, if we take this sentence, hit the nail on the head, it will mean in Spanish, golpear el clavo en la cabeza. But if you know this sentence, it actually means providing the correct solution to a problem or guessing the answer to a difficult problem or situation. So, what you're going to do this week is that you're going to choose 3 idioms and you're going to do something similar to this. You're going to give me the idiom that you've chosen, the translation, and a sentence using that idiom. Okay? Then when we're finished, we will collect all the idioms and that will serve us to learn a little bit more. So, you can create these kind of posters on a piece of paper if you want, and if you want to do it online on the computer, you have a lot of apps that you may use. but I would recommend to you to help you a bit. So to create posters, you have this web, maybe you know it, which is Canva. It is a web, but it is also an app. You may download it on your mobile phones or on your computers, your tablets, whatever, and you may create something like this. Then to download the pictures and the drawings that you want to include, you may use this web, flaticon.com. I forgot the .com, sorry. So an important thing is that to use this web page, you don't have to register. You may download as many pictures as you want, but to use Canva, you have to register. The good thing is that you may register with your Google account, which means that you don't have to fill in a lot of data about you. You just have to introduce your Google account and maybe your password, okay? And with Canva, as I said, you may create this kind of posters. And also, if you want to find more inspiration, you may come here to the Instagram of Cambridge, Spain, where you have a lot of things like this. In fact, these 3 examples, as you can see, are from Cambridge, Spain. And this activity will be also for Sunday, okay, the 3rd of May. Why? Because maybe you may do it in 5 minutes or so, but if some of you want to get a little bit more creative, or if some of you enjoy these kind of activities, I want you to do it relaxed, okay? So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to explain a little bit, I'm going to review a little bit the grammar from units 1 and 2 to help you with the activity of the grammar game. So if you remember grammar, you may stop the video now, but if you want to review a little bit, you may stay and hear the explanation. Of course, the PowerPoint that I've created will be uploaded to Google Classroom if you want to take it later. So if you don't need to hear my explanation now, but you want to look at this PowerPoint later on to help you with your app or with your game, you may do it as well. Unit 1, we have the adverbs and expressions of frequency and the present simple and continuous. First of all, the adverbs of frequency. This was something really easy, and if you remember, we use them to say how often something happens. I have written all of them here for you to remember, from the most usual, always, siempre, to the least, never, nunca. And the expressions of frequency, which are also used to say how often something happens. We learned every and once, twice, 3 times. If you remember, once means una vez, twice, dos veces, and then from 3 onwards, 4, 5, 6, 7, we use the word times. So it would be una vez, dos veces, tres veces, 4 times, 5 times, and then we added here the frequency. Every day, todos los días, every week, todas las semanas, etc. And here we had to add the preposition a, okay? So it was once a day, for example, una vez al día. Twice a year, 2 veces al año. The second part of this unit was present simple and continuous. So now, I know that you already know how to do it, but as I said, we're going to review. So the first thing is the present simple. What you have to remember from here is that to form the negative, we use don't or doesn't if it is the 3rd person. And of course, also on the 3rd person, we have to add the S. So here we have Emma likes your drawings. As it is Emma, she we add the S to like. Here, John doesn't play football. We don't add the S because it is already here, doesn't. If we have the S here, we don't have to add it on the verb. And now we go to the beach every year. We don't have to add the S or anything because this is a first person. The present continuous. We form it with the verb to be in the present. Remember, I am, you are, he is, etc. And the verb with ing. So here Emma is drawing a dragon. John is not or isn't. You may use any of them. Playing football with his friends. And we are going to the cinema. Of course, remember that in order to create questions, what you have to do is put this at the beginning of the sentence. So this would be, are we going to the cinema? Now, which are the differences? When do we use them? So we use the present simple to talk about facts, habits and routines. They play tennis every week. Juegan al tenis todas las semanas. If we do something with a certain routine, we will use the present simple. And what about facts? If we are talking about facts, for example, water boils at 100 degrees. El agua hierve a 100 grados. We will use also the present simple. Or summers in Murcia are very long. Los veranos en Murcia son muy largos. Okay? So, about facts, habits and routines. And when do we use the present continuous? To talk about actions in progress now, while we are speaking. So Tom is sleeping at the moment, but even if we don't include at the moment, if I say Tom is sleeping, I will understand that it is happening now, okay? And here is the same, they are playing outside now. If we just say they are playing outside, we understand that they are playing outside now, at this moment. Unit 2. We had used to, the past simple, the past continuous, and the past perfect. How do we use the used to? We may translate it in Spanish as solía, okay? So we use this to talk about past habits and actions that are now finished or don't happen anymore. Here, I used to live here when I was a baby. Solía vivir aquí cuando era un bebé. It was something that I did or that I used to do when I was a baby, but it doesn't happen anymore. Now I'm living elsewhere, in another city or in another town. But what you have to remember here is that we always add the but. As it is a past, if we are asking a question or if we want to use the negative, we already have did, so we don't have to include the D. We erase the D. So here, did she used to play football with her brother? We use without the D. And here, he didn't used to wear colorful t-shirts. No solía llevar camisetas de colorines o de colores. We also erase the D. Now, past simple, the past continuous, and the past perfect. First of all, the past simple. How do we form it? We add ed if it is a regular verb, or we use the second column if it is irregular. To form the negative, as we said with used to, we are going to use did or didn't, and it is used to talk about completed events or actions in the past. For example, we laughed a lot watching that film. As it is a regular verb, laugh, we are going to add the ed. And to form the negative, we add didn't, and we omit or erase the ed. And to form questions, we add did, and also we have the infinitive of laugh without the ed. what happens with the irregular verbs? As you can see here, I read a great book last night. If we use the verb to read, we have to use the second column. Remember that it was read, read, read. But if you want to write it, it is the same. But if we were to use the verb break, for example, we would use broke. I broke a window last night, for example. Rompí una ventana anoche. Now, what happens with the letter Y? If we have this letter, remember that if the verb has a consonant before the Y, as in study, we will change the Y and instead we are going to use the I. But if we have a vowel before the Y, as it is the case here in play, we are going to simply add the ed after Y. So yesterday Matthew studied hard for the exam and Gilbert played basketball with his team. And of course, remember that when we have a verb which ends with consonant, vowel, consonant, we are going to double the consonants before adding ed. Past continuous. We saw before that with the present simple we use the verb to be in the present, while here we use the verb to be in the past, was or were. Remember that we use was for the first person and the third. And then we add the verb ending in ing. It is used for actions in progress during a time in the past. For example, this morning I was doing my homework. Esta mañana estaba haciendo los deberes. So, during this morning, I was doing my homework. We are emphasizing the action in progress during that time. In this case, this morning. And here, last Saturday, they were playing with their cousins. El sábado pasado estaban jugando con sus primos. So, we want to emphasize that during that day, they were playing. And the last one, the past perfect. To form the past perfect, we use had, always had. It doesn't matter if it is a first, second, or third person. And past participle. Remember that to form the past participle, if it is a regular verb, we will add ed. But if it is an irregular verb, we will use the third column. So, here we will use past perfect for actions that happened before the main action in the past. What does this mean? For example, take the first sentence as an example. Mike didn't come to the party because John hadn't invited him. So, what happened before? What happened before was the verb that we have with the past perfect. So, John didn't invite Mike, and as a result, Mike didn't come to the party. So, the first thing was that John didn't send the invitation, didn't invite him, and then Mike didn't come. To talk about the first action or the older action, we use the past perfect. And to talk about the most recent action, in this case we use the past simple. Okay, another example. Take this sentence. I wrote her a letter because Alice had given me her address. Le escribí una carta porque Alice me había dado su dirección. So, what happened first? Alice had given me her address. If I don't have the address, I can't write the letter. So first, Alice gave me the address and then I wrote the letter. To talk about the older action, we use the past perfect, and to talk about the most recent action, we use the past simple. Now, I have written a few examples with all these tenses for you to see the difference. So here, the first one, Ruth was crying when her friend made her laugh. So, this was an action in progress, and then her friend made her laugh, an action that happened in the past and finished in the past. Past continuous and past simple. Another example. Tim and I watched the film that you had recommended us. As you can see here, this is the older action, the action that happened before, and then this is the action that happened later, the most recent one. So first you recommended the film and then we watched it. So to talk about the older one, we use the past perfect, and to talk about the most recent one, we use the past simple. And now here we have a sentence with all the tenses together. They were working when their friends told them that they had prepared lunch. Estaban trabajando cuando sus amigos les dijeron que habían preparado la comida. So, first of all, this action was in progress. This was something that was happening along a time. Okay? So, for example, during all that morning, they were working. At one point, their friends told them, interrupted them to tell them that they had prepared lunch. So this is an action that happened and finished. And then we have they had prepared lunch. That is an action that happened before this one. So we have the older action and the most recent action. So here is where they told their friends something, and this something is that they had prepared lunch before. Okay, so I'm going to clarify this for you. They were working, action in progress, when their friends interrupted them to tell them that they had prepared lunch before. So the action in progress, the action that finished in a moment in the past, and the action that happened before the main event. In this case, the main event would be the past simple, told them. So, estaban trabajando cuando sus amigos les dijeron que habían preparado ya la comida. So this is all for now. I hope that everything's well at your house and in your family, and see you next week. Of course, please remember that if you have any doubts, you may comment on Google Classroom, you may leave a comment also on Instagram, or you may send me a direct message or an email. See you!